I have one.
Okay.
When someone's delusional and they've got a cure for AIDS, how do you be honest with that?
At first, I couldn't have answered that at the beginning. And what I do is, when they say they have the cure for AIDS, I will ask them, what makes you think you have the cure for AIDS? Asking them questions. And based on their answers, lots of times when they say, well, you know what? It's not that I see that at this time. That's maybe what you see and that's what you feel. But I'm wondering what makes it that we can have a look at this. And it's not saying you don't believe them, because that's where they believe. That's where they get very frustrated. But I'm not agreeing with it, John, and I'm not disagreeing with them. But I'm helping them to process it, to think it through of, is this real? And that was the part, is helping her to bring some reality to the whole process. Any other questions? So the resiliency, this is the area that we have developed for our company, Coolfamilysolutions. And this is what the wheel looks like. And we have it one for children, and we have one for adults. And what happens is there's a questionnaire, and it's, the whole purpose of this is to determine what the strengths are in the individual. Everybody has strengths. We also have areas that we need to work on or to develop. And what this process does, and when they answer the questionnaire, they will, what would happen is that it comes up telling them where their strengths are. And here's what the profile can look like. This is the way it looks. So if each of you were to fill out that whole survey questions, you're going to have a profile like this in all the specific areas. So recovery is looking at the internal factors and external factors, self-care and personal empowerment. And we looked at that adult resiliency wheel that I have here. You can see that there's the external, which is community cohesiveness, family support. It covers all the bases in the external strengths. Then the internal is resistance skills, spirituality, acceptance, cultural awareness, self-esteem. It has all those pieces, and this all breaks down into these areas and gives you that profile of an individual. The purpose of this whole process was to know where the strengths of the individuals are, so we can understand where the strengths are and focus on that, because a lot of times the strengths can make a difference. For an example, my daughter said to me one day, she was not quite in the euphoric side, the high side, the manic side of her illness, but she was certainly escalating to that. So we went for a walk. And she said to me, Mom, I want to be the CEO of Alberta Health Services. Really? Well, I said, what makes you think that you can do that? Well, I think I can, and she started to list. She says, here's her next questions to me. Do you think I can? Well, as a mom, you get a little smart. If you say yes, you're in trouble, and if you say no, you're in trouble. So what I said to her, and I had to stop and think, I didn't respond right away. I said, Candace, you are very good at research, and this is what she was. As a nurse, she did a lot of research. And she did a lot of research, and I said, your strength is in research. I'm wondering if you should research to see what it takes to be that CEO of Alberta Health Services. And just try it and see what that means. But I says, you know what? I don't think today you'll be able to start that process, because I think there's a little more to it than just being the CEO of Alberta Health Services. She accepted it. I was grateful, because I didn't know what I would do next. But she accepted it, that I at least listened and heard her and talked about it, and maybe what was the process that she could do. And that was the whole point of, and at that time, we did not have any of these tools or anything else to know. It's just that we started to learn that she had the strengths, and how can we bring that into her life that she can have control of her life, and it makes a huge difference. So when adults go through this resiliency, there's confidence, commitment to learning, positive change, self-esteem, self-efficacy. These are all the pieces that makes it a resilient individual. I'm going to tell you a story here. And this individual I'm working with right now at Pathways. And he said, I asked him if I could share, without his name, share a little bit of his story. And he says, you go for it. So here's what has happened. This individual was on the streets, no money. And also, he had addictions, drugs, smoking, alcohol, all of those pieces. He was this close to saying, I'm done with my life. Until Pathways basically brought him out of the system, into the system, and brought him into the program. I met this gentleman, we had a connection, and eventually we started working together. And so we meet every week. And what has happened is, in time, and what I've had to do is, I don't have everybody's answers, I just don't. All I can do is be where they are, listen to them, and help them to think through their own situation so that they can come upon their own decision. Consequently, what he's done is this. We've written out, this is his sheet, and he journals every day. And here's his ideas. He looks at his energy, endurance, punctual, clean, feelings, thoughts, handling stress, money, journal, future. These are all the pieces that he journals every day. And then this is the piece here that every day he makes sure that he does. This is only a small portion of what he does. Activities, medication, exercise, journaling groups, financial, job, programming, and walking. It's been a year and a half, and here's where he is today. He does not smoke. He does not do drugs. He does not drink alcohol. And he had struggles with his family because there's drugs and addictions full in there, and he's had to be in the middle of it, but kept himself clear of it. And he has a job. And the best part is he saved every penny he could to have his 3 grandsons come and join him at Christmas time. That's a year and a half. And part of this was this tool that showed him where the strengths were, where the areas he needed to work on, and we took the time. And lots of times with individuals, you only need one person to care. Well, he had many people to care. So he's had that support. So this is the hope, and I want to give you that hope, because this is not all doom and gloom. There's hope in this. And as I mentioned, the Child Resiliency Wheel, and then resilient children is less likely to use drugs, more involved, volunteering, and also they can help manage to navigate their system and they're in their world. The other part is bullying comes up quite a bit nowadays. This will also show a child where their strengths are, how we can develop, and it's the parents working alongside of them and working through these whole things together. And so the parent gets to understand them as well. Any questions? How does this work? How does this presentation work into what you're doing in your classes? My question to you. Is there any pieces that work into what you're doing? No answers.
Well, I can maybe discuss that.
Good.
Are you talking this class specifically?
Yeah, why you're here today. There's a reason you've come today other than John telling you to come here.
Well, a lot of us are taking this class kind of to get more of an understanding of the ways in which people find themselves in poverty.
Okay.
And so I think a lot of it is, well, we know that a huge percentage of people within that population have mental illness.
Yes.
And the things that you're teaching today are kind of ways in which we can step into people's lives and encourage the family unit to help them so that they don't end up in poverty.
Okay.
Maybe?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
It is. Because it's the family piece, and you're likely familiar with this, but with the family piece, there's individuals that have a family that will support them, but there's a family that may not, and they may not have a family, which is very, very difficult. The Pathways program actually provides that family piece for most. We have individuals that don't have family members, and so consequently we become their family. And it's a very touchy issue for them, for the family piece. But if you're bringing in families into the process, lots of times it's helping them to connect. So how do you all see that the family can be a piece? Because I heard John mention that family is maybe an important piece. Do you see, how would you see the family being an important piece to the ones with poverty? Yes?
Well, I'm doing practicum at the Calgary Dream Center.
Okay.
And all the guys there, well, a lot of them who do have family, like that's one of their main motivations for being there. And then a lot of times when they go through their grads or those sorts of things and the family members come, that's what means the most to them. Like, they might have really good supports at the Dream Center, they might have a really good case manager or counselor, but it means the most when their mom or dad or brother, sister, kids, grandkids, when they're willing to come and support them even though they have made mistakes. Like,
Yes.
that means, like, it means the most that there are people who are willing to stand by them.
Right. Well, family becomes, regardless of what their dynamics and what their situation was, they want family there. It's a constant. And we've had individuals that I'm trying to find. It's not that I have been skilled enough to find some of the connections, but I'm trying to learn what can connect them or what organizations can be part of connecting them so that they have it. And we have one guy that's come to me, he wants his mom. It's very heartbreaking, you know, to hear that. But so we're trying to figure out ways to maybe find the parents, because it's difficult. There's lots of resources, but not resources necessarily that will connect the dots for adults to the parents. You know, so it is difficult. This is what the wheel's pretty well put out. It's one that is assessing their strengths, as you can see. It's cutting edge. This adult piece was something that Resiliency Initiative developed for our company, Coolfamilysolutions, because they didn't have the adult piece, but they had one for the children. So this is what it is. And it monitors how the program is working. So now we go up to what we call the 7, 8, 9 of that house that we mentioned. And this is the whole part of how we strengthen the family to weather the storms. Because with mental illness and addictions in most cases, the ups and downs continue. But we can lessen the ups and downs, support that individual plus the family so that they do not collapse under the pressure. And knowing what your roles are, how you support them, and then of course external, internal self-care and understanding that, and a plan of action. And this is what else we do, is that follow-up is what is happening with the family, what is working. Lots of times families don't know what is working. And if we can show them what it is working or what they're doing and validate that, that makes a huge difference, because they always figure they're doing everything wrong. Well, they're not. But they don't see that. But yes, there's areas that we need to improve, but this is changes that can be made. We can be strengthened to meet uncertainty. Family, individuals, and independent from the healthcare system. And the point of this is that the healthcare system is set up for the crisis. And they're overwhelmed. There's a lot of waiting lists. And I think what's important is that we can take those individuals or those families that are working and doing somewhat well, but want to improve and to strengthen it, so that when the ups and downs come, they're feeling much more confident in what they're doing and having that ability. So when they're confident in their skills, they're hopeful, they're optimistic, and also it takes a weight off the system. And this is this whole thing. I don't call my program a wraparound, but I guess it has some tendencies towards that. But the thing is, what's important is when that family and the individuals can walk side by side, it makes a huge impact on the wellness with the individuals that are facing mental illness and or addictions. Okay, do you have any questions?
When you talked about the government systems, I was just wondering, like, how would you say that, like, Alberta Works or ACE or anything like that recognizes, like, mental health issues or anything like that in these terms, like, or even financial compensation or providing resources for them?
Yes, they recognize it because in the Pathways program, there are definitely lots of them, many of them come in with Alberta Works. Then eventually it's ACE, and that's quite a process. That has to be, doctors have to approve it. There's a lot of paperwork to go through it. It just doesn't happen. Lots of times they're refused 2 or 3 times. But they're starting to recognize that it's needed. And what that does is it gives them a small lift of that financial piece, because that's a stressor. With no financials, you know, they got a roof over their house, over their head, but at the same time, they've got a few dollars that they can manage because their rent is taken out of what they get. I think it's $15.88, I think, is what the amount is. So out of that, the rent comes, and then just living on whatever food and different things that they need, and that's what they get. It makes a huge difference. Some are starting to look at getting, you know, some jobs, but they're limited. You know, this gentleman that I talked about, he's 2 days a week, 5 hours, 6 hours in a day. He's worn out, but he's still getting into the practice of having to do it. But it's making a difference to him because now he's feeling a little more independent, a little more in control, which makes a huge difference. Yeah, so they are, you know, it's helping. Alberta Works, there's not as much. There's very little of what's left by the time the rent. There's very little money at all. Is there any other questions?
Tony, you talked about pathways, and I'm thinking for most people who don't have family, because there are some, they're either so dysfunctional or they're not there at all.
Yeah.
What's the best surrogate family look like?
The best surrogate family looks like is basically if you can have somebody there that, and there's individuals that volunteer and support in that, I guess, that surrogate way, is that they care, they listen to them, they're part of their lives, maybe attend their functions, being part of that process. And at Pathways, we have several individuals that do not have families at all. And what they rely on is because there's the programs, so that gives them some tools. They got somebody, if they're upset, they can go and talk to and express what they feel, what they think, and be okay and not be judged. That's a key thing, is they're not being judged. And that also we can point out what things they do well at. Really appreciate it. So you acknowledge them, you profile them and say, great job, you're a star this month. And just really putting a lot of that in there just to help them and just be that best. The other part they do is I facilitate the peer support for the individuals at Pathways that are living with the mental illness and addictions. And the piece that comes up is family. It hurts. We have family events, and it's, you know, it's twice a year that the families come and be with their individuals if there is families, and some are even flying in from distances because it's become a very important piece. The part that hurts the most is the individuals that don't have family. And this is a family event. But friends are family too. Now, some of their friends, maybe not their best ideal of a friend, but lots of times they can bring their friends. And maybe it's just a couple from a church, and in one case it is. It's a couple of the church that have basically taken them under their wing and they'd come to the functions like any other family would. We had a discussion one day, and I thought I'd bring up family just to see where they're at and help them with this piece. And I asked the question, what is family to you? I had dead silence. Nothing was said. And I said, that's interesting. I said, something's bothering you about this family piece. What is it? And what they said was, well, I don't have a family. How can I be excited about a family event when I don't have my family and they're not part of me and they don't want to be part of me, or I don't even know where they are? So what we had to do was look at what family means. And what family was is maybe if we can look at it, what can be a little different. And I said, what is family to you in the sense, what would that look like if you had a family? What would that look like? And they came up with a whole list, but here's the definition they came up with in the end. Did anybody have an idea of what they might have said that might have worked? Any idea? Caring relationships. That's their family. So it doesn't matter if it isn't their biological family or even their adopted family, as long as it's some caring